"Don't worry, he won't bite," assured the human to the frightened alien girl. The twin suns of Lyria were low in the sky, spilling pink and gold light across the dense, glowing forest. Strange plants swayed as if alive, their leaves shimmering in colors Mara Ellis had never seen before. The air was thick with a sweet, floral scent that made her chest feel light and her senses sharp. Mara knelt on the soft, moss-covered ground, adjusting the straps of her exploration pack. Her team had landed only 2 days ago, and already the alien world felt like a puzzle she was determined to solve. Lyria was beautiful, yes, but dangerous. Even from a distance, she had seen the shadows of large creatures moving silently through the undergrowth. Her robotic scout, Bolt, hovered nearby, its metallic body reflecting the glowing plants like a tiny moving mirror. Mara could hear the faint hum of its engines as it scanned the environment. She trusted Bolt more than any human, and now, more than ever, that trust would matter. As she moved deeper into the forest, Mara's attention was caught by a sudden rustling sound. Her heart beat faster. Something or someone was moving quickly through the plants. She crouched, signaling Bolt to follow quietly. The noise stopped abruptly, replaced by a soft whimper. Mara scanned the area. In a small clearing, partially hidden behind giant ferns that glowed a faint violet, she saw a young alien girl. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes large and golden, and her tiny frame trembled as she clutched a piece of glowing moss to her chest. She looked at Mara with wide, terrified eyes, and Mara immediately understood. The girl was alone. Mara's voice was gentle, soft, but firm. "Hey," she said, kneeling slowly so she appeared less threatening. "Don't be scared, I won't hurt you." The girl flinched back, her eyes darting to something behind Mara. Mara turned slowly and saw the silhouette of a massive predator, its shape moving silently through the dense foliage. Its eyes glowed red, and its long, spindly limbs made it look even more terrifying. Mara's first instinct was to move closer to the girl and shield her, but she knew the predator could strike at any moment. "Don't worry," Mara said, trying to keep her voice calm despite her racing heart. She gestured toward Bolt. "He won't bite." The girl's eyes widened further, disbelief and confusion mingling with fear. Bolt, the robotic companion, hovered beside Mara and emitted a soft, reassuring hum. Its sensors glowed blue as it scanned the area, calculating the predator's distance and speed. Mara took a slow breath. "I'm going to help you, okay? But you have to trust me." The girl hesitated. She glanced again at the predator and then back at Mara. Her body shook, but Mara could see the flicker of curiosity in her eyes. Mara knew this was her chance. Human beings were different from most species. Humans could connect through patience, gestures, and understanding. If she could show the girl that she was not a threat, they might survive this encounter together. Mara extended her hand slowly. "My name is Mara. What's yours?" The girl's lips moved, forming a sound that Mara could barely understand. Zyra," she whispered. "Zyra," Mara repeated with a smile. "That's a beautiful name. I'm going to keep you safe, Zyra, I promise." Zyra's lips quivered, and for a moment Mara thought the girl might run. Instead, Zyra took a tiny step toward Mara. Her golden eyes never left the predator lurking in the shadows. Mara stayed low, keeping her hand extended. Bolt moved slightly in front of her, forming a protective barrier between the predator and the two of them. Then the predator moved faster, its movements deliberate, its eyes locked on Zyra. Mara's mind raced. She had to act, but she didn't want to frighten Zyra any further. Human beings had something other species didn't always recognize: creativity and quick thinking under pressure. She scanned the area and noticed a cluster of bioluminescent vines hanging low from the trees. If she could distract the predator, maybe she could lead it away without harming it. "Zyra, stay behind me," Mara whispered. She grabbed a few vines and tossed them toward the predator. The vines glowed brightly in the dim light, catching the predator's attention. It paused, tilting its head as if curious. Mara took a careful step backward. The predator followed the glowing movement of the vines, giving Mara and Zyra a small chance to escape. Step by step, they moved through the forest. Zyra stayed close to Mara, her small hand gripping Mara's sleeve. Mara kept talking softly. "You're very brave, Zyra. I know this is scary, but you're doing exactly what you need to do." Bolt hovered nearby, scanning every shadow. Its small lights blinked as it processed threats and calculated safe paths. Mara couldn't help but admire the human invention. Humans had created companions like Bolt not only for protection, but for understanding. A human mind could see solutions that weren't obvious, and Mara intended to prove that to Zyra. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a small cave at the base of a glowing tree. The predator had lost interest in the vines and slunk back into the forest, its glowing red eyes fading into the darkness. Mara exhaled slowly. Zyra's grip on her sleeve loosened slightly, and the girl sank to the ground, still shaking but no longer hiding. "You're safe here for now," Mara said, kneeling beside Zyra. "See, I told you he wouldn't bite." Zyra looked at Bolt, then back at Mara. For the first time, a small, cautious smile appeared on her face. Mara felt a surge of relief. This was the first connection between human and Lyran, fragile but real. Human beings had a way of reaching out, of showing kindness even in fearsome situations. Mara hoped that this moment could be the beginning of something bigger, a bridge between two worlds. Mara sat with Zyra for a while, letting the girl catch her breath. The forest around them hummed with life, glowing plants pulsing gently as if sensing the shift in energy. Mara could hear distant calls of other creatures, but nothing approached. She spoke softly about herself, about her crew, and about Earth, trying to create a sense of familiarity for Zyra. Slowly, Zyra began to mimic Mara's gestures, tentatively reaching out toward a glowing plant and touching it. Mara smiled. Human beings could teach and learn at the same time. The two of them sat together, learning about each other in small, quiet ways. Mara knew this was just the beginning, but it was an important start. Trust had to be earned, and humans had a natural advantage: persistence, patience, and empathy. The sun dipped lower and the forest glowed even brighter. Mara decided it was time to return to the base. "We should get you back to your village," she said gently. Zyra looked worried, glancing back at the forest. Mara held out her hand again. "I'll keep you safe, I promise." After a moment of hesitation, Zyra took Mara's hand. Bolt hovered in front, scanning the path ahead. Mara led them carefully through the forest, staying alert for any signs of danger. They moved slowly but steadily, and Mara kept talking, explaining what she was doing and why. Zyra began to ask questions, her voice soft but curious. Mara answered patiently, proud of the first steps they were taking together. As night fell, the glowing plants lit their path. Mara felt a sense of quiet triumph. Humans could survive in alien worlds, not because of strength alone, but because of courage, creativity, and empathy. Zyra looked up at her with trust forming in her eyes. Mara realized that this small connection was the first spark of something extraordinary, proof that humanity could make a difference, even on a world as strange and dangerous as Lyria. Finally, they reached a clearing where small lights flickered in the distance, the signs of Zyra's village. The girl stopped, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and fear. Mara knelt once more. "You'll be safe now," she said. "I'll make sure of it." Zyra nodded, gripping Mara's hand for a final moment before letting go. Mara watched as the girl ran toward her family, her small figure disappearing among the glowing structures. Mara felt a surge of pride. Humanity had made contact. Humanity had shown compassion. Humanity had survived, and perhaps even begun to build a bridge between worlds. As Mara turned to head back to her own camp, she looked at Bolt and smiled. "Not bad for a human and a robot," she said quietly. The hum of the machine seemed to answer in agreement. Mara knew this was only the beginning, but it was a beginning full of hope. And in the vast, glowing forests of Lyria, hope was a powerful thing indeed. The next morning, the forest of Lyria seemed calmer, but Mara knew that appearances could be deceiving. The soft pink light of the twin suns filtered through the giant trees, casting long, delicate shadows on the glowing moss beneath her feet. Birds, or something like birds, chirped in strange harmonic tones, and the sweet scent of alien flowers filled the air. Mara moved carefully, keeping an eye on the forest floor for any signs of predators. She had promised herself she would return to Zyra's village. The girl had trusted her, and Mara did not take such trust lightly. She adjusted her pack and checked her wrist console, scanning the terrain and mapping the safest route. Bolt hovered beside her, its soft blue light cutting through the shadows. Mara had always admired humans' ability to invent tools like Bolt, and now she relied on it completely. As they approached Zyra's village, Mara noticed signs of life beyond what she had seen from afar. The structures were built from what looked like woven plants, sturdy yet flexible, glowing faintly from bioluminescent fibers. Smoke rose from small, controlled fires, suggesting cooking or warmth. She slowed her pace, careful not to startle the villagers. Humans could be intimidating, Mara thought, but patience and understanding often made the difference between fear and trust. From behind a bush, a group of villagers watched her cautiously. They were taller than Zyra, with skin in shades of blue and green, eyes shining gold or silver. They whispered to each other, their voices melodic but tense. Mara stepped forward slowly, hands visible, and said, "I come in peace. My name is Mara, I mean no harm." The villagers exchanged glances. One of them, slightly taller with silver markings along his arms, stepped forward. "Who is this human?" he asked in a language Mara did not understand. Bolt translated roughly, providing the best approximation of meaning. "I am an explorer," Mara said gently. "I want to help, I want to understand your world, and I want to make sure your people are safe." There was silence. Mara could feel the villagers' eyes on her, weighing her words and her body language. She understood. Humans were strange to them, tall with soft skin, no natural armor, and unpredictable gestures. But Mara had learned early in her career that fear could be eased with patience. "I met Zyra yesterday," Mara continued. "She was afraid. I helped her. She trusts me." The mention of Zyra caused a small stir. Mara noticed the villagers exchange glances again. Trust could spread, she thought, but slowly. She crouched slightly, lowering her height to appear less threatening. "I want to help," she repeated. "I want to show you that humans can be friends." The tall villager, who Mara assumed was a kind of elder or leader, studied her for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "We will watch," he said through Bolt's translation, "but trust must be earned." Mara smiled softly. That was all she needed. Step by step, humans could connect even in the strangest worlds. She had learned this countless times, and Lyria would be no different. She followed Zyra to her home, a small glowing structure built in a hollow tree trunk. Zyra ran ahead, chattering softly in her language. Mara tried to respond with smiles and gestures, letting the girl see that humans could communicate without words, that kindness could cross any barrier. Zyra's family watched cautiously but did not interfere. Mara noticed the subtle signals Zyra gave her, guiding her without words. Inside, the home was warm and filled with soft light. Plants hung from the ceiling, small pools of water reflected the bioluminescent walls, and the scent of cooking food was everywhere. Zyra's mother approached, her golden eyes wary. Mara bowed slightly, a human gesture of respect. "I come to help," she said simply. Zyra's mother studied her carefully. Mara could feel the tension, but she stayed calm. "I saw your bravery," Mara said. "Yesterday, when the predator came, you protected her. That was impressive." The mother's expression softened slightly. Humans valued courage, and perhaps that was something the Lyrans could understand. Mara continued, "I want to help your people. I can learn from you, and maybe I can share what humans know too. We can be allies, not enemies." There was silence again. Mara realized this was normal. Across cultures, across planets, understanding took time. Human beings had patience and empathy. It was one of the reasons Mara believed humanity could thrive even on alien worlds. Outside, the forest hummed with life. Mara and Zyra's family shared small meals, using glowing fruits and nuts Mara had never seen. She marveled at the flavors, enjoying the textures and smells. Zyra watched Mara carefully, asking questions in her language, and Mara tried to respond with gestures, pointing, mimicking, and smiling. Slowly, Zyra began to teach Mara how to say basic words. "Hello, friend, safe, food." Mara repeated each word, enjoying the musical sounds of the alien language. Hours passed, and Mara knew she needed to explore more of the area. The village was safe for now, but the forest beyond was unpredictable. She wanted to understand the dangers Zyra's people faced daily. She stepped outside with Bolt hovering behind her. Zyra insisted on coming along, and Mara agreed, knowing the girl's instincts were strong. They moved through the forest cautiously. Zyra pointed out areas where predators hid, areas where plants were poisonous, and safe paths that wound through the glowing undergrowth. Mara took notes on her wrist console, fascinated by the ecosystem. Human curiosity and intelligence allowed her to understand these dangers quickly. She could see patterns, notice details, and predict movements that even Zyra had never considered. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from a nearby tree. Both Mara and Zyra froze. A small, cat-like creature with shimmering fur leapt onto a branch. Its eyes glowed, and it made a soft, curious sound. Zyra laughed softly, relieved, and Mara smiled. Even in alien worlds, some small joys were universal. They continued through the forest until they reached a cliff edge, overlooking a vast valley filled with glowing rivers and towering plants. Mara could see large creatures moving in the distance, but none approached. She knelt beside Zyra, pointing to the valley below. "See," she said, "even dangerous places can be beautiful. Even dangerous places can be explored safely if we pay attention and work together." Zyra nodded slowly, her eyes shining. Mara knew that trust was growing. Humans could teach and protect in ways that were new and surprising to other species. Patience, intelligence, and courage, these were traits that set humans apart, even on a planet as strange as Lyria. As they made their way back to the village, Mara noticed signs of trouble. Footprints that did not match any known predator. Broken branches. Something had passed through recently, and Mara's instincts told her it could be dangerous. She signaled Zyra to be quiet, and Bolt's sensors glowed red, indicating multiple life forms approaching. Mara's heart raced. Humans had a natural ability to plan and react under pressure, and she would need it now. From the shadows emerged another group of humans, different from Mara's team. They wore armored suits and carried strange devices Mara recognized as mining equipment. Mara stepped forward, raising her hands. "We come in peace," she shouted, her voice firm. The newcomers ignored her and continued toward the village, their intentions clear. They wanted the resources, not the people. Mara's mind raced. She had to protect Zyra and her village without causing unnecessary violence. Humans were not just strong, they were clever. They could think, negotiate, and find solutions others could not. She turned to Zyra, whispering, "Stay behind me." "We'll handle this." Zyra nodded, gripping her hand tightly. Using hand signals, Mara led the group to a narrow canyon that forced the newcomers to slow down. She activated Bolt, whose lights flashed and emitted sounds that confused the intruders. Mara stayed calm, moving with precision. Her human ingenuity allowed her to create diversions quickly, leading the miners away from the village while keeping everyone safe. Finally, the intruders gave up, frustrated and unable to reach their target. Mara exhaled, relieved, and returned to Zyra. The girl looked at her with awe. Humans, Zyra was learning, were not just strangers. They were protectors, thinkers, and brave allies. Back at the village, Mara was greeted cautiously but with growing respect. Zyra's family nodded to her, their trust increasing with each successful act of courage and intelligence. Mara smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning. Human beings had a unique ability to connect, to understand, and to protect. That ability had won the first challenge here on Lyria, and it would help them face whatever came next. As night fell, the village glowed softly, and Mara sat outside, watching the stars and twin moons rise. Bolt hovered beside her, lights pulsing gently. She thought about the next steps: exploration, understanding the planet, and strengthening the bond between humans and Lyrans. Zyra came to sit beside her, leaning slightly against Mara's shoulder. Mara patted the girl gently. "Tomorrow we explore more," she said softly. "There is so much to learn, and we will do it together." Zyra nodded, her eyes heavy but full of trust. Mara smiled. Human beings had many strengths, but the greatest was their ability to connect, to understand, and to act with courage and care. On this strange new world, those strengths were already making a difference. For Mara, Lyria was no longer just an alien forest filled with danger and mystery. It was a place where humanity's light could shine, where compassion and intelligence could build bridges between worlds. And with Zyra by her side, Mara knew that the story of humans and Lyrans was only just beginning. The morning sun rose over Lyria, spilling golden light across the glowing forest and the small village where Zyra lived. Mara stood at the edge of the village, adjusting her pack and checking Bolt's sensors. The robot's soft blue glow pulsed steadily, scanning the forest for danger. Mara had promised herself she would learn everything about this world, from its creatures to its people, and she intended to keep that promise. Zyra approached, her small hands clutching a piece of glowing moss she had picked up on the way. Her golden eyes sparkled with curiosity and excitement. Mara smiled at her. "Are you ready for today?" she asked. Zyra nodded eagerly, her nervousness from yesterday replaced with determination. Humans had a way of encouraging trust through courage and patience, and Mara could see that Zyra's confidence was growing. They moved into the forest together, Bolt hovering above and behind them. Mara noticed Zyra pointing to plants, vines, and small creatures, explaining their uses and dangers in her musical language. Mara tried her best to mimic the sounds and gestures, recording everything on her wrist console. Humans were skilled at observation, pattern recognition, and learning quickly. She realized that this would be invaluable in helping the Lyrans. As they walked, Mara sensed a change in the air. The light shifted, shadows deepened, and a low rustle echoed through the forest. Mara signaled Zyra to stop. Bolt's lights flickered orange, indicating multiple large life forms approaching. Mara crouched, scanning the surroundings. She spotted movement in the trees above, a group of winged predators circling slowly, their eyes glowing red. "Stay close," Mara whispered to Zyra. "We'll get through this." She knew humans had an advantage here, creativity and quick thinking. Humans could solve problems in ways others could not. Mara looked around and noticed thick vines hanging from the trees. She picked one up and tested its strength. If she could distract the predators, she might lead them away without harming them. The first predator swooped down suddenly. Mara grabbed Zyra and pulled her behind a glowing fern. Bolt activated a small device on its arm, projecting a bright holographic light across the clearing. The predators faltered, confused by the unexpected glow. Mara seized the opportunity. She tied the vine to a nearby tree and swung it across the clearing, drawing the predators' attention. The creatures followed the movement of the glowing vine, leaving Mara and Zyra momentarily safe. Step by step, they moved through the forest, Mara using her knowledge and instincts to navigate safely. Zyra clung to her arm, trusting Mara completely. Mara spoke softly to the girl, explaining each step. "We move quietly, slowly. Watch how I look for danger." Humans notice patterns other species miss. Zyra's eyes followed her every move, absorbing every lesson. Mara knew that this was more than survival, it was teaching, showing the Lyran girl what humans could do when faced with danger. After what felt like hours, they reached a small river glowing with blue bioluminescence. The predators had given up, distracted by the movement and lights. Mara allowed herself a small sigh of relief. She knelt beside Zyra and dipped her hand into the cool, glowing water. "See. Even dangerous moments can end safely if we think and act together," she said. Zyra smiled, imitating Mara by touching the water with her tiny hands. As they continued, Mara noticed footprints that did not belong to any animal she had encountered. She crouched to examine them closely. Bolt scanned the area, confirming Mara's suspicion. The tracks were made by other humans, miners, or explorers from another group. Mara's heart tightened. The first group had tried to steal resources. This new group could be even more dangerous. She would need to protect the village and Zyra while avoiding unnecessary conflict. Mara led Zyra along a hidden path she had marked on her wrist console. Bolt's sensors lit the way, scanning for both predators and humans. They moved quietly, Mara teaching Zyra to notice subtle sounds and movements, to anticipate danger before it arrived. Human intelligence, she thought, was about more than strength. It was about awareness, strategy, and adaptability. Zyra's eyes widened as she saw the humans in Mara's world, how they could calculate, plan, and react under pressure. Suddenly, Mara heard voices and metallic clanking ahead. The group of humans was approaching the village. Mara's instincts kicked in. She signaled Zyra to hide behind a large, glowing bush while she activated Bolt's diversion system. The robot projected bright holographic decoys, drawing the newcomers away from the path. Mara's mind raced, devising a way to protect the village without confrontation. Humans had a unique ability to find solutions that did not rely on violence, and she intended to use it now. The intruders, confused by the holographic lights and sounds, moved off the main path. Mara and Zyra slipped through the forest, reaching the village safely. Zyra ran ahead, alerting her family. Mara followed closely, ensuring everyone remained calm. The villagers watched Mara with growing respect. Humans, they were learning, could act with courage, intelligence, and morality. Mara smiled quietly to herself. She knew that small acts of bravery and cleverness could build trust across worlds. Once the village was safe, Mara turned her attention to understanding the intruders' intentions. Bolt analyzed their equipment and behavior, confirming they were after Lyria's natural resources, plants, minerals, and perhaps energy sources. Mara considered the problem carefully. Humans had creativity, the ability to negotiate and think strategically. She would need to use every skill she had learned as an explorer to prevent harm. Mara called a meeting with Zyra's family and the elder who had first accepted her. Using gestures and simple words translated by Bolt, she explained the intruder's intentions. The villagers listened closely, their eyes wide but not afraid. Mara demonstrated possible ways to block access to their village without harm. Hidden paths, clever traps that confused rather than injured, and signals to alert the community of danger. The Lyrans watched and learned quickly, impressed by the human mind's ability to adapt and plan. That afternoon, Mara took Zyra aside. "Humans survive not just because of strength," she said, "but because we can think, create, and protect others. That is what makes us strong." Zyra's eyes shone with understanding. She wanted to learn to be able to protect her people as Mara did. Mara smiled, patting the girl's shoulder. "You already are brave, and now you'll learn more about strategy, observation, and courage." As the sun began to set, casting soft pink and purple light across the glowing village, Mara and Zyra walked along the river. The water reflected the colors of the sky, shimmering in shades the human eye had never imagined. Mara took this moment to teach Zyra a small human practice: how to focus, how to calm the mind when danger is near, and how to notice small details in the environment that others might miss. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the forest edge. Mara froze. Bolt's sensors lit up, scanning rapidly. Mara signaled Zyra to stay behind her. Emerging from the shadows was a creature they had never encountered before, a massive, armored beast with glowing blue eyes and a protective shell over its back. Mara's heart pounded, but she did not panic. Humans had faced the unknown countless times and survived. She analyzed the beast carefully, noticing its movements, its rhythm, and its reactions to sound and light. Bolt activated a soft, pulsing light to distract the creature while Mara moved slowly, showing calm confidence. She gestured for Zyra to remain still and calm, demonstrating that fear could be managed. The creature hesitated, curious about the lights and sounds. Mara took a deep breath. Humans could act creatively under pressure, and she used that instinct to craft a simple plan. She led the creature slowly away from the village, using motion, sound, and Bolt's holographic projections. Finally, the beast disappeared back into the forest. Mara turned to Zyra. The girl's eyes were wide, filled with awe. "See," Mara said gently. "Even the biggest problems can be solved if we stay calm and think carefully. Humans use courage and cleverness to protect others." Zyra nodded slowly, absorbing every lesson. That night, the village glowed softly under the twin moons. Mara sat outside Zyra's home, reviewing her notes and observing the calm after a long day of danger and learning. Zyra joined her, leaning slightly against Mara's shoulder. Mara smiled. Humans had a special ability to connect with others through courage, empathy, and intelligence. The trust of Zyra's people, earned slowly and carefully, was a testament to that power. "Tomorrow we explore farther," Mara said softly. Zyra nodded, eyes heavy but sparkling with anticipation. Mara knew that each day brought new challenges, new discoveries, and new chances to show that humanity could be a force of good even in the most alien worlds. As she watched the glowing forest, Mara reflected on the day's events. Humans were not just survivors, they were thinkers, protectors, and teachers. On Lyria, that strength was already making a difference. With Zyra and her people, Mara saw the beginnings of a friendship that could change the course of history, proof that humans could shine even in the strangest, most dangerous places. Bolt hovered quietly beside them, lights dimmed in the soft night. Mara patted its metal casing gently. "Not bad, old friend," she whispered. "We're making a difference." Zyra smiled sleepily and leaned closer to Mara. For the first time, Mara felt the weight of her responsibility and the hope of what humanity could achieve. On this strange world, humans were not just visitors. They were protectors, problem solvers, and allies, and together they would face whatever came next. The next morning, the village glowed softly under the pale light of the twin suns. Mara woke early, stretching as she stepped outside. The air smelled sweet and earthy, carrying hints of glowing flowers and damp moss. She could hear Zyra moving around, her small hands busy with tasks Mara still didn't fully understand, but she could sense the girl's excitement. Today, Mara had a plan. She wanted to learn more about Zyra's people and teach them something in return. Humans had a unique ability to share knowledge and build trust through understanding, and Mara was determined to show it. Zyra came running to Mara, her golden eyes sparkling. "Mara," she called in her musical language, bouncing slightly on her feet. Mara smiled and bent down. Good morning, Zyra. Are you ready to learn today? The girl nodded eagerly. Mara took a deep breath, glancing around the village. Zyra's people were beginning to move through their daily routines, carrying glowing baskets, tending to small pools of water, and whispering softly to each other. Humans could observe, adapt, and learn quickly, and Mara wanted to blend in as much as possible while still sharing knowledge. They started by exploring the outer edges of the village. Mara wanted to understand the natural defenses and resources available. Zyra led the way, pointing out safe paths and dangerous spots. Mara listened carefully, recording everything on her wrist console. Human intelligence allowed her to notice patterns that Zyra's people might have overlooked in their routines, subtle signs of predators or environmental dangers. Mara knew she could use this knowledge to protect the village if needed. As they walked, Mara taught Zyra a simple method humans used to observe without being noticed. Watch the shadows, listen for the quiet sounds, feel the movement in the air, she explained. Zyra tilted her head, her large eyes concentrating, and tried to mimic Mara's gestures. Mara smiled. Humans could pass on skills quickly, and she could already see the girl improving. Zyra was learning not just about survival, but about thinking strategically, a human trait that often made the difference between life and death. They reached a clearing where a cluster of strange, glowing flowers grew. Mara knelt beside them, examining the petals and the stems. Humans study plants carefully, she said, picking up a sample for analysis. We look at what they can do, how they help people, how they can be used safely. Zyra watched closely, her curiosity piqued. Mara began to show Zyra how to identify patterns in nature, how to notice which plants were safe and which could be harmful. Zyra repeated the gestures carefully, learning quickly. Mara felt a spark of pride. Human curiosity, careful observation, and teaching could create new bonds and protect lives. Suddenly, a shout came from the village. Mara and Zyra froze. Bolt's sensors flared orange, detecting movement from multiple directions. Mara's heart raced. Humans had an instinct for analyzing danger quickly, and she immediately scanned the area. A group of humans, different from her crew and the miners they had encountered before, was approaching. These newcomers carried equipment and wore suits that shimmered in the morning light. Mara's mind raced. She had to protect Zyra's people without causing harm. Mara grabbed Zyra's hand. "Stay close and do exactly as I say," she whispered. They moved to a narrow path that twisted through thick vegetation. Mara could hear the humans talking, their voices low but filled with intent. Bolt projected soft lights to distract and confuse them, creating holographic illusions of movement deeper in the forest. Mara's quick thinking allowed them to avoid detection. Humans were clever, capable of solving problems creatively, and she was proving it now. The intruders moved away, unaware that Mara and Zyra had slipped past. Mara exhaled slowly, relieved. Zyra looked at her with wide eyes. "Humans are clever," Mara said gently. "We can protect and solve problems without fighting. That is one of our strengths." Zyra nodded, absorbing the lesson. Mara realized that part of being human was not just physical courage, but also moral courage, the ability to act wisely and safely under pressure. Later, Mara called a meeting with Zyra's family and the elder. Using gestures and simple words translated by Bolt, she explained what she had observed. "These humans are not your friends," she said. "They want your resources. We must be careful, but we can protect ourselves without harm. Watch how I plan." Mara demonstrated a series of strategies, creating hidden pathways, building distractions with lights and sounds, and observing patterns in the intruders' movements. The villagers watched, fascinated. Humans had a special ability to combine knowledge, observation, and creativity to protect and teach. After the meeting, Mara took Zyra aside. "You see, humans are not just strong. We think, we plan. We protect others by using our minds, not just our hands." Zyra listened intently, her small face serious. Mara continued, showing her how to create simple signals using glowing moss and reflective surfaces. "This will help your people know when danger is near. It's a way to communicate without being seen. Humans use tools and clever ideas to stay safe." Zyra repeated the gestures, her eyes lighting up with understanding. Mara felt proud. Teaching, protecting, and inspiring trust, these were human strengths. The day continued with Mara exploring the village, learning about daily life, and sharing simple human knowledge. She showed the villagers ways to store food safely, how to purify water, and how to create simple signals for communication. Zyra was always close by, mimicking Mara's actions and learning quickly. Mara could see that trust was growing not just between her and Zyra, but between her and the entire village. Human patience, intelligence, and empathy were creating bonds that no force could break. As afternoon approached, Mara decided to explore beyond the village. She wanted to map the surrounding forest and find safe routes in case of future danger. Zyra insisted on coming along, and Mara agreed. Humans could teach, but they could also learn, and Zyra had much to teach about surviving in this alien world. Bolt hovered above, scanning continuously for threats. Mara's mind worked quickly, noting patterns in the terrain, water sources, and areas where predators might hide. Humans had the advantage of curiosity and intelligence, and she was using it fully. They reached a cliff overlooking a wide valley, rivers glowing faintly in the setting sun. Mara pointed toward the valley. "Humans study their environment carefully," she said. "We look at everything, learn patterns, and plan for safety. This helps us survive and help others." Zyra watched the valley with awe, understanding that human thinking went beyond strength or speed. Humans could create solutions and protect others in ways that seemed like magic to other species. Mara smiled, knowing she was teaching more than survival. She was showing the power of the human mind. Suddenly, Mara heard a low rumble. The ground trembled slightly. Bolt's sensors flared red. Mara's heart raced. She scanned the valley and saw movement, large predators gathering near a water source. Mara knew humans could not face these creatures alone, but they could use strategy. She pointed to rocks, fallen logs, and reflective pools of water. "We will use the environment," she whispered. Zyra's eyes widened, understanding that human creativity and courage were about to be demonstrated once more. Mara led Zyra to a safe position and instructed her on simple actions. Move quietly, observe patterns, and watch the creatures carefully. Bolt projected lights to guide their movements and distract the predators. Step by step, they guided the creatures away from the village and deeper into the forest. Zyra mimicked Mara's calm confidence, learning the human way of solving problems with intelligence and courage rather than fear. By the time they returned to the village, the sun had dipped below the horizon. The villagers were waiting, eyes wide with admiration. Mara smiled, exhausted but satisfied. Humans could survive and thrive in alien worlds, not because of strength alone, but because of intelligence, creativity, and empathy. Zyra's people were beginning to understand that human ingenuity could protect and teach in ways their predators never could. That night, Mara sat outside, watching the twin moons rise. Bolt hovered quietly nearby. Zyra joined her, leaning against Mara's shoulder. "Tomorrow," Mara said softly, "we will explore even more. There is much to learn, and together, humans and Lyrans can protect each other." Zyra's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Mara knew that each day brought new challenges, but humans had the ability to meet them with courage, intelligence, and moral strength. The forest glowed gently around them, and Mara felt a quiet satisfaction. Human beings had a unique gift, the ability to think, to teach, and to inspire trust across species. On Lyria, that gift was already making a difference. With Zyra's trust and the villagers' growing respect, Mara could see a future where humans and Lyrans worked together, sharing knowledge, protection, and friendship. Bolt's soft hum was the only sound besides the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Mara patted the robot gently. "Good work today," she whispered. "We're making a difference, slowly, carefully, but surely." Zyra yawned and rested her head against Mara's shoulder, trusting completely. Mara smiled. The bond they were building was proof that human qualities, courage, intelligence, empathy, could cross even the widest gaps between worlds. As Mara watched the forest shimmer under the twin moons, she knew the coming days would bring more challenges. Other humans might return, predators would not always stay away, and Lyria itself was unpredictable. But Mara was confident. Human ingenuity, patience, and morality could overcome even the greatest challenges. And with Zyra and her people, she was not alone. In that quiet moment, Mara felt the true meaning of being human, the ability to understand, protect, and connect. On this alien world with glowing plants, strange creatures, and a cautious but curious people, humanity's strength shone brighter than ever. Mara knew that the story they were writing together was only just beginning, and that the greatest adventures were still ahead.